A derailment of another hype train. Benoit Saint Denis defies the odds by not only defeating Mauricio Ruffy, but submitted him, out-grappled him, and outstruck him. A more or less one-sided performance for Benoit Saint Denis. Mauricio Ruffy entered this fight believing that BSD was just a stepping stone in that journey. But as the fight played out, you saw the regression of Mauricio Ruffy throughout. The fight was not going the way he expected, to say it mildly. He was losing the striking, then he was losing the grappling. Nothing was working for him in that first round. And you even saw the athleticism that he's known for, the flashy footwork, start to regress throughout the fight. In the beginning, he was able to maneuver on angles and lose Benoit Saint Denis in the octagon. But then once he got taken down, that footwork dissipated, just vanished from his skill set. It was as if he was a different fighter. He was more desperate for the knockout, winging punches with no setup sometimes, incredibly telegraphed shots that even BSD was easily able to defend. And BSD, honestly, he's not the best striker, he's a grappler, you know? But he was able to see those shots and evade them with ease. Against someone like Ruffy, who's incredibly quick and very tricky, all of that just regressed once that first takedown landed. Ruffy's never fought a wrestler before in the UFC, right? He's had 3 fights in the UFC and they've all been against strikers. As soon as he fought a grappler and got taken down by the grappler, his entire demeanor and style changed, with the regression of his footwork being the worst result of it because it made pressuring Ruffy so much easier to back him to the fence, and that opens up an even easier pathway for the success of those takedowns. Ruffy's against the fence, perfect for BSD. Shoot on the legs and then rise into the body lock, tripping him to the ground. And Ruffy's regression of angles was a huge contributing factor to that. Ruffy cheated in the fight to stand up once. The commentators missed that. I'll get to that later. But going to the finishing sequence, Ruffy accepted the loss. I don't know if you guys noticed this. When BSD got the back and landed a few ground and pound shots, look as soon as he was going for the neck. Where are Ruffy's hands? They're both on the floor, right? Understandable, he needs a certain amount of time to react. Well, the arm now is around the chin and BSD is securing it with his other hand. What is Ruffy doing with his hands? Nothing still. He reached at it once, put his hand to the floor again, and just sat there. There was no urgency to get out of that submission whatsoever. Let alone the submission, even the position, there was nothing. Like, he didn't even attempt to get out of it. He didn't try to buck, he didn't try to roll, he didn't try to punch, at least something, right? At least something. He just accepted defeat, and the fight was only a round and a half in. That is how bad BSD broke him. When the choke was there, then Ruffy was grabbing onto one of his hands with only one of his. He wasn't using both hands to try to pry it open, or the effort just wasn't there for Mauricio Ruffy. He didn't try to get out of that submission with all of his might. Ruffy doesn't have the fundamentals as a safety net. When his techniques fail, he gets more desperate and sloppier for the knockout, which is what you saw with those telegraph punches. But a lot of this began from the body kicks. So BSD outstriking Mauricio Ruffy was an incredibly interesting part of this fight, because it's the part of the fight that none of us expected to happen. I'll grapple him, sure, but to outstrike him? That's quite insane. What this fight showed is that Ruffy has no fundamentals. It's all athleticism, it's all stylish, just the most eccentric techniques possibly thrown is where he excels. And the reason why BSD outstruck him as well is because he used the fundamentals. He stuck behind a jab, he threw the open stance body kick by stepping on the outside the lead foot, lining it up perfectly. Literally, it's the first strike he threw and the first strike he landed. Powerful shot to the midsection as soon as the fight began. And he used that to condition Ruffy's striking defense, creating an opening to the head with the same leg. Head kick lands on Ruffy later, although he took it. So Ruffy definitely has a good chin because BSD's got some decent power and he's knocked opponents out before with head kicks like this. Ruffy ate it like it was nothing and continued to fight. So a lot of respect to Ruffy's durability because that was a shin to the jaw. And a lot of this set the pace of the fight for BSD. With the fight beginning that way, being on the receiving end of a successful body kick and then a head kick, BSD immediately following up with a takedown feint to keep Ruffy on edge about the wrestling as well. So he just ate a head kick and then he has to immediately worry about a takedown. You try to counter the slow telegraph takedown and still missing the punch. Then BSD commits further with that fake takedown, reaching at the leg, which drops Ruffy's defenses, and he could have landed a punch up top, but instead extends with his fingers out there. He didn't poke him in the eye, but I think he could have landed a punch if he actually committed to it. So 20 seconds into the fight and nothing is working for Ruffy. Until this one moment where he was able to lose BSD due to his athletic, tricky footwork. He moved into the fence at a right angle. BSD's not much of an athlete and he tried to cut him off, so he steps to his left with his right foot, sort of scrambling his feet there, because by stepping with the right foot, now he doesn't even have that leg as an option to immediately rebound the other way. If he stepped with his left foot instead, he could have used that to spring himself to the right, cutting off that direction from Ruffy, because that's the way he took off. And therefore, Ruffy was able to reset the fight to the center again. But then BSD succeeds with a deep outside step on Ruffy. Look how far he steps on the outside the lead foot. Ruffy never wants that to happen because it's opening for a takedown and it opens up the left hand or left kick of BSD. The deeper you step on the outside that lead foot, the better the angle is to generate more power, as well as getting a more adequate takedown. So Ruffy goes on the attack. He actually uses a very quick jab, including that outside step. He was looking to line up the right hand, but he doesn't fire it, so it was merely used as a feint, and BSD bit on it. He shot a takedown, and Ruffy initially defended it. Slightly sprawls, gets his hips away from the hands of BSD, and tried to push his head away, but the persistent BSD leaned in further by getting on his knee so that he could secure the body lock and muscled Ruffy against the fence to then belly to belly him with the outside trip. Easily slices through for the full mount. Ruffy doesn't resist too much there. And while under in full mount, Ruffy actually hits a slick move here. As he's rolling, he gets left wrist control, pulling BSD to the side and forcing him to post his elbow on the floor and pauses any potential back take. So then Ruffy there switches his focus to the leg. He grabs onto that left leg but then makes a mistake by continuously holding on to it. So BSD climbs up higher, pushes his weight on top of Ruffy, causing him to drop to the floor in order to secure that figure four around the body. But then instead of focusing on a potential choke from getting submitted, he instead reaches at the leg, tearing away the position. It gets BSD to gradually rotate in front of him, and then he eventually stands up. So here's the moment for Mauricio Ruffy to adjust the Benoit Saint Denis style. What is he going to do when BSD shoots a takedown? Well, he throws a flying knee, he keeps himself on the fence. He actually regressed with his footwork throughout the fight, where before he was able to maneuver away from the fence, from any potential aggression from BSD. But here, where he adjusts for the flying knee, he keeps himself against the fence instead of trying to get away from it. Usually when a striker is fighting a grappler, they want to get the fight at the center of the octagon, not for their back to be against the fence. But throughout the fight, Ruffy just accepted that position, or was unaware of it. One of the two. He may have accepted it to try to land a flying knee, or he was so unaware of his position after that first takedown that it just made the fight gradually easier for BSD. But the flying knee doesn't even work. BSD was able to smush his legs together for the double leg takedown. Ruffy resisting by posting one hand on the floor, so BSD just drags him away from the fence, but Ruffy returns due to his speed advantage, which results to BSD muscling him against the fence and holding that top position. He gets that wrist ride position that Habib used to get in so many of his opponents, but Ruffy gives up his back, and BSD obliges. He goes for the back take, but Ruffy uses that to rotate, where now BSD is on top in full mount. And this is where Mauricio Ruffy cheats to stand up. It was missed by the commentators. So Ruffy's plan here is intended to get his feet closer to the fence and his head away from it. Therefore, he could push off the fence, causing a scramble for him to stand up. But the way he gets that position was by him gripping onto the fence with his toes. He does it multiple times. In fact, he walks along the fence by constantly gripping onto it. As you can see here in the beginning, toes gripped into the fence. Maneuvers his right foot, grips onto this side of the fence, moves his left foot, now he's walking across it, and then uses that ultimately to push away, causing a chaotic scramble, resulting in him successfully getting to his feet. If he didn't do that, or if the referee was on top of it, I don't know if Mauricio Ruffy would have stood up there, or even potentially for the rest of the round. Who knows how the fight would have went if he actually didn't grip onto the fence, because BSD was on top in the dominant full mount position. So it was a big deal, man. But this eventually leads to the low blows, and they were in fact low blows. BSD landed about 2 or 3. One of them was blocked, so I would say 2. They get separated, and Ruffy's desperation kicks in immediately after. One of the most telegraphed punches I've ever seen from a fighter. So he does have a setup with it. So he steps onto BSD's lead foot and throws a fake body jab that is used to distract BSD of dropping his defenses, allowing for the follow-up right hand to float through, blasting the chin. But due to the windup of the punch, BSD sees that right hand from a mile away. Swooping uppercut misses. Look at the form and overextension of Mauricio Ruffy. And here's a pretty cool moment where BSD pressure Ruffy against the fence and just throws an open side body kick. It lands under Mauricio Ruffy's guard. He then follows up with a takedown, which gets easily defended, as Ruffy simply angles away from it and then frames off for the exit. but he did not expect another body kick off of the exit that lands perfectly. Great stuff from BSD. Then moving into the second round, there were more adjustments to be had from Mauricio Ruffy. Replicating the first round, BSD begins the second with another body kick. But this time, Ruffy was able to block it and then counter with his own jab. So he learned from the first round. But not only that, he was optimizing his jab, even using it as a counter when BSD attempted to step for his left punch. He then throws an intercepting flying knee that partially lands. The shin lands on the face, not necessarily the knee itself. But Ruffy followed that up with a dropping punch, and BSD ate them deliciously. But then the regression of footwork continues to be on display from Ruffy. He kept moving closer to the fence. He didn't try to angle at all. It was as if that athletic movement disappeared. He moved straight back into the fence against the grappler again. BSD reached at both hands to get closer. And what does Ruffy do? He throws an awkward elbow, lands the shot, which I guess mission accomplished. You're not going to knock out BSD with a shot like that, and that opened up a double leg. He rose that up into a body lock, and then outside tripped him again, and once more got the fight to the ground. The strength of BSD is just something else, man. Ruffy was trying to keep his position on top, but BSD just muscled him around, attempted to pin him to the ground, but Mauricio Ruffy uses that momentum to reverse, and he eventually stands up once again. And remember last time when Ruffy stood up, what did he do immediately? Once he brought the fight back into his world, he got desperate for the knockout and threw a ridiculously telegraphed punch. Well, he does it again. Not the same punch, but still incredibly telegraphed. And actually, this punch may have been even less effective because there was no setup for it. At least for the previous telegraph punch, there was a setup to it. He stepped on BSD's foot, threw a fake body jab, but this time, he literally just wings open the right hand with no setup at all. This could have been just desperation for a knockout, due to the fight being unexpectedly difficult, and he does the same thing again. They're both standing in the center of the octagon, Ruffy with his hands down, BSD with his hands up. Already you see a difference in the stance. BSD has a much more efficient stance here, and Ruffy wings another right straight with no setup. It was as if he expected BSD to walk into it. Well, there's an overextension, and then BSD simply pushes behind his jab, winning ground against Ruffy, who then again walks straight backwards into the fence. No angles, no athleticism there, just gives BSD the position that he wants. Huge regression in footwork throughout the fight. So BSD throws a left hand, right hand, he's setting up the takedown to get Ruffy's hands up high. And not only does he raise his hands away from potentially defending a takedown, but he even turns his head away. He can't even see the takedown now. So Benoit Saint Denis shoots a double leg, rises that up into the body lock once again, which seems to be a common technique that he uses. It's complementary with his usual strength advantage. When he gets a body lock, it's nearly impossible to get out of it. The guy's just insanely strong, and once more gets the outside trip, crashes the fight to the ground, but this time it's even worse. Look at Ruffy's left arm, trapped behind his back, opening up the entire left side for BSD to get this back take and go for a rear naked choke. BSD was aware of it, so he purposely meant to trap that arm there as he's climbing up for the position. Look at that, the entire time until the hooks are secured, Ruffy's left arm was trapped, and Ruffy didn't try to fight out of the position. The resistance faded, and it was almost as if he accepted the position and ultimately accepted the loss. Amazing win by Benoit Saint Denis, man, and probably the biggest win of his entire career. Not only because of the opponent, but in the fashion that he won. He outstruck his opponent, who was supposed to be the superior striker. Then he outgrappled him and submitted him in the second round. So it was a total win in all areas for Benoit Saint Denis. And for his next opponent, I would like to see him fight Michael Chandler, honestly. That would be such an insane, reckless fight. The brute strength, the will, the perseverance of both fighters. That's the fight to do next, man. And as for Mauricio Ruffy, he should be fighting someone who is not ranked. He was given this opportunity against someone in the top 15 and he got destroyed. He's not ready for the top 15. Like, if this was a close fight, it would be understandable for him to get another shot. And I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. If you guys did, make sure to give it a like. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video.